I'm Chris Williams from Cyclone Fanatic and a proud Iowa State graduate from the class of 2007. No one shows up like Iowa State fans.
And Cyclones support Cyclones on and off the field.
Your gift can provide scholarships to students, fund groundbreaking research. We could even drum up opportunities for the marching band. Visit MoveWhatMatters.com to learn how you can make an impact today.
What is up, everybody? I'm Connor Ferguson here with Rob Gray for Cyclone Fanatic. Going to give you guys a bit of a spring football update. Thank you to our friends, or I guess thanks to our friends at A+ Lawn and Landscape. They're the reason we're on here today, and couldn't be more happy to talk about them. The best benefit of all with fertilization is maintaining a lawn that is the envy of your neighbors. The lush green grass lends a desirable curb appeal and benefit to your home. Customers will see a difference in as little as a year from the start of our fertilization applications. Our lawn care program will help you keep up with your lawn on an annual basis. They serve Des Moines, West Des Moines, and Ankeny, along with other nearby communities in central Iowa. If you call them today, 515-420-1828, they will give you a free quote on fertilization services. They got very specific. All lawns are different. I've been reading up. They got a different mix of nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium than the typical fertilizer. Every lawn is completely different, and that's the special treatment you get at A+ Lawn and Landscape. So thank you to the educated experts over there. Rob, you ready to go?
Yeah, I'm more of a landscape guy, by the way, and they do great work in landscaping too. I know that.
Why don't we have you do the ad?
Well, you know, you're right, but see, I'm not that big. I think you're a little bit more of a lawn guy and more of a landscaping guy. So it's a perfect mix we've got going with the great folks at A+ Lawn and Landscape. So
I've mowed enough
on turf to talk about. So it was a perfect lead in.
Heck yeah. So we're going to kind of split this up into two parts. We'll throw the kickers in there, but we won't tell you which episode they're on. How's that?
Okay, yeah.
If we run out of space on either one, we're going to throw them in there.
Kickers, punters, special teams. Okay.
That's right. Yeah. Whole group, everyone included. I might even do a starter projection for the long snapper position.
Holder.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
No, let's start out with the quarterback spot. Obviously, Rocco Becht is there out front and center, but the backup spot between Connor Moberly and Alex Mansky is one that I'm very fascinated in. I think these are two guys that Iowa State really thinks they hit on. They're excited about both of them. Could not have heard more, I think, last season about Connor Moberly, and now Alex Mansky is there challenging for that position. Rob, what do you take away from what we've heard so far with those guys?
Well, we talked to Jake Waters not that long ago, and he mentioned that Mansky's a bit limited now coming off the injury that he had, and he's been really impressed with Connor. We saw him at times last season, really, especially in terms of running the football. Just give the Cyclones a different dynamic there. Rocco started doing that, obviously, more as the season went down, got some big touchdowns and first downs with his legs. But very impressed with Moberly. I know Waters said he'd certainly put on muscle. That's another theme again. Another year under Kagi. Another time they're talking about, muscle mass added and all that good stuff and other kind of more arcane measurements. But right now, I would say, obviously based on last season, I mean, Moberly's very much in line right now, but Mansky, of course, in tremendous talent. We know the stars next to his name. We know what he did in high school. The measure, he's got the whole package. So it'll be interesting to see once he's fully healthy and integrated at all times, what that race will look like. But I know they're really impressed with Moberly, and of course Rocco's performances speak for himself. He's kind of going into fine-tuning mode and really working on the decision-making aspect, sharpening that, and improving the touchdown to interception ratio a little bit, but he's remained solid in that area in both seasons as a starter.
Yeah, I think last year we could have seen more growth out of Rocco, but to, slightly improve or get a little bit better from the foundation he had built is still a really impressive year from him. And obviously, I don't think he really cost the Cyclones any results. That's debatable all the way across the board, I suppose. But even if you see a little bit of growth there this offseason, he built such a fine foundation at a young age with lesser experience that I think Iowa State fans got to be really confident about him being the best quarterback in the Big 12 going into this year, and hopefully proves that as the year goes on. And then it's unfair to say this for Moberly because he kind of committed really early, but remember Mansky chose Iowa State over Texas A&M and everything that went into his recruitment. His story is really remarkable. I think it's a UCL that he had repaired, and he had been back like
Brock Purdy.
Yeah, same injury. It's
the same area. Yeah, Rocco, I think he might be jumping the gun a little bit to say best in the Big 12, but certainly has put himself in the conversation as one of the most productive. I mean, you look at the 11-win season historic. He made so many heady plays, so many gutsy plays. I think he'll tell you he's got to cut down on the pick sixes, got to cut down on the interceptions, but the pick sixes. And I was on a podcast with Chris a while back, and it's just kind of remarkable when you look back during this run with Purdy and the 1 year of Deckers was pretty efficient. He certainly put up big numbers. And Rocco, the percentage of interceptions that turned into pick sixes by the last three Iowa State quarterbacks, as good as they've been, is somewhat shocking. I think I haven't done the math on it yet. We'll probably maybe break that down. Maybe we don't want to. I don't know, but those are areas to work on, and that's all efficiency, and that's all maturity and process with Rocco. I mean, his numbers took a little bit of a drop last season in terms of completion percentage and touchdown interception ratio, but it was still very good. And he'll tell you that he can always be better, and that's what you want from a quarterback. And like you said, Mansky, a lot of teams wanted him, and it will be interesting when he gets some audition time. And I know they've been really impressed with everything they've seen from him. So, certainly Rocco's position, I'm sure it's his goal to be the best in the Big 12. It's a lot of good guys coming back in that group and newcomers, but certainly in terms of wins, losses, there aren't a few. Sam Levitt is pretty much the only one who topped Rocco last season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's going to be a quarterback to look out for coming into this year as well, with what he was able to do with ASU and what he'll be able to do without Cam Scadaboo over there at ASU.
Real quick with Rocco too. I mean, what happens? I mean, you bring in, Xavier Townsend to same body type kind of as Jalen Knoll. You bring in Chase Sowell, kind of same body type, maybe not quite as muscular at this point as Jaden Higgins was, but that's just going to be a lot. I think the tight ends are going to play a big role there, with Ben Bramer back. We saw Gabe Burkle come on strong at the end of the year. Tyler Moore is healthy. Cooper Alexander, everyone high on him, just a stacked room. So a lot of things can help Rocco in that regard. But when you lose two guys of caliber, Jalen Knoll and Jaden Higgins, who are both projected certainly as second day guys or potential second rounders. I know some people sneak one of them into the first, but I think most people are thinking second, third for those guys. I mean, that's a lot to replace, and it'll be interesting to see how Rocco manages to do that as well.
Yeah, that's going to be something we definitely cover on the receivers. And do you want to jump to receivers, or you want to go to running backs?
Let's go right to receiver.
All right. As you said, Chase Sowell and Xavier Townsend kind of, you're looking at them to step up and be those guys, and it's hard to have Jaden Higgins and Jalen Knoll graduate and depart and say, hey, here's the new two, fill in their shoes. There's a lot to prove in that wide receivers room. I know that last year they spent kind of almost the whole season looking for a wide receiver 3. You had some solid games out of Carson Brown. You saw Brett Eskildson on the I think I'm saying that right, on the special teams game. Yeah, he was out there every game on special teams, and they really like what they have in him. And then
Overby, they like him as well. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, sorry to just break
No,
in.
you're good.
I'm really intrigued to see what Eli Green does. You know, last season when he kind of became a forgotten man, he was highly touted, put up big numbers at NDSU, and just kind of became a forgotten guy. I know he made a couple of catches in the bowl game, I want to say, and Isaiah Alston, you saw him get targeted in that game and made one great catch, either in the bowl. I think it was the bowl game, the Pop-Tarts Bowl.
Yeah.
Those guys, there's a reason they stuck around, presumably. And if they're as good as their potential shows it, and again, Green's numbers back it up, you've got a pretty loaded room. But again, very unproven room, certainly at Iowa State. But again, I think the tight ends will give Rocco that security blanket that helps those guys all find a good role. And I think they can move around a little bit too, kind of like you saw with Jalen and even Jaden a little bit. So, I mean, a lot of positional flexibility in terms of slot, outside, all that stuff for the receiver group.
Yeah, no, and I love your summation of that. And I do hope no one thinks we're sitting here overhyping people. We will talk about the offensive line. Someone will comment that. I'm positive of it. But this is obviously, like, if you're at Iowa State, if you're on the staff at Iowa State, this is a group they believe in. They wouldn't bring these guys in or keep them around if they didn't believe in these guys. But obviously, a ton to prove for the wide receivers, and I really think that's going to be the biggest storyline on the offensive side of the ball going into 2025 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yes, that in addition to, has the offensive line taken that real next step versus you see steps, little this and that. They protected Rocco really well the last couple seasons. Least penalized, I want to say, in the Big 12. So the pre-snap penalties are starting to see less of them. And that was seemingly would hit them, especially in the Decker season, the season with all the close losses and the 4-8 finish. I mean, it seemed like a pre-snap penalty, a false start, something happened and killed so many drives in plus territory. So yeah, I mean, not to leave receiver entirely, but I still think the offensive line is that ever-present burning question. And if you want to shift gears and head to that side of it, fine, unless you got something more to say about receivers.
No, I was going to go tight ends, but let's go to the offensive line. That's better. We're going to keep everybody guessing on what we're going to talk about next.
Doesn't have to, but it's good. It's all the offense, right? It's all got the flow like Rocco a little bit. It's just a little bit. Absolutely. You don't know exactly where we're going.
Absolutely, and to start with the offensive line, you're going to hear more about it this offseason than you're typically used to, I should say, because of the resume that Ryan Clanton has. He was at a D3, D2 school in California. I've forgotten it now, and I've said this stat so many times. He was there for 4 years. In his time there, 19 of the 20 starting offensive linemen he coached ended as all-conference players. So that resume and what he did there, and he showed a little bit of it at UNI. He was also the offensive coordinator there for a couple seasons, I believe. What he has been able to do and what he's been able to coach, he has all the intangibles and all of the track record for Iowa State fans to have confidence in the offensive line this year. And while inconsistent last season, they definitely took a step. Now you kind of just wait for the games to be played and see if they continue to take steps going forward.
Yeah, obviously Jalen Travis, well, he'd already graduated, but getting another year of college toward his PhD, probably, knowing him under his belt. We saw how he did at the combine, was a huge asset to that line. But again, people will remember, banged up early in the season, couldn't play. So you got James Neal some work. And James Neal's still very young at football, a former basketball player. And tried him a little bit at tight end a little bit, which is something that, Travis joked last year, it would be great if Taylor Mauser would drop a play where I could catch a pass. Well, ask James Neal, since, JT's gone, maybe you can fill that role. And he's like, I'll talk with Mouse, the usual joking about that. But he's very much a work in progress. But as Clanton said, Neal is just crazy athletic. And that's why, you put him on the tackle opposite Tyler Miller, who's become kind of a stalwart on that line. Obviously losing Jared Hufford's huge too. They've talked about, how they're going to address that. They've got a variety of ways. Clanton said Jim Boniface, who started a couple years ago at center, has really gotten bigger, stronger, knows the offense like a coach. So you got a lot of pieces back on that line that, Brendan Black.
I had one thing written down about him, that he was taking snaps at center in one of those videos they tweeted.
Yeah. And Clanton was asked about that. I didn't think he felt like he was settled on it, but if he could slot in, they got the Helton twins, very impressed with them. Other returners like Bohr. I mean, again, a deep unit, but a unit that's got to replace two guys who could potentially play in the league. I mean, I think Hufford's got the toughness and the smarts to do it. I think he'd be an undrafted guy probably, but Travis will be drafted, and that's something big to replace. But the big thing is Clanton. The way he talks about the offensive line is different than his first 2 seasons. He just was constantly going with that violence and versatility mantra. He's kind of subdued that a little bit, and just talking about them being technicians and being strong and playing with that aggressiveness to run through people's faces as a matter of course, not like something he's got to pull out of them. You know what I mean? So that's what's most intriguing to me. And like you said, his track record, his coaching pedigree is sterling. And if it tracks like it's always tracked, this should be a big year for the line. And again, should be. It's been saying that for years. But if it is, certainly some very special things could be done this season, similar to the last one.
Yeah, I'm completely with you there, and I think we hit everyone on the offensive line. The other thing about Clanton is he's always said he's going to coach his offensive line unit to play every position, or maybe not to that extreme. Maybe that's a bit hyperbole, but a lot of guys playing multiple spots, figuring out the scheme and stuff like that. So definitely another thing to look at, obviously, going into the season. And I want to get to tight ends and, talk about the injuries that Iowa State had last season. A lot of them on the defensive side, and I can't wait to talk about the linebackers in the next episode we do of this. But a healthy Ben Bramer coming back is going to be something Iowa State benefits from.
Yeah, well, people won't forget, but people might kind of lose sight of, since he was unavailable most of last season. I know they tried to play a few snaps late, but clearly kind of felt like a decoy out there. His athleticism is off the charts. And I mean, a coach's kid, his football IQ is up through the roof too. He's a big play receiver type of threat, a Charlie Kohler type of threat. And he's bigger, stronger. He's gotten better as a blocker each season. I assume that trend will continue. And then Gabe Burkle, who made so many huge catches down the stretch last season, he's got another year of development, and a guy that Rocco trusts and can go to. And Cooper Alexander, highly hyped freshman last season, he got hit with injury. Where does he fit in? And Tyler Moore, he scored some touchdowns. He's had some big catches in his career, can't stay healthy. Can he stay healthy? Then you're looking at potential 2-3 tight ends of the field at times when you need it. I know Mauser being a tight ends coach, people think he just wants to do that. Look, if the receivers are all doing great, you're not going to put 3 tight ends a ton, because they're going to give you the best chance to win, by using that speed more than the combination of speed and skill and power. But, again, a deep unit, if it stays healthy, which it didn't last year, and which is why Burkle's performance, I truly, over the last 4 or 5 games in particular, was a revelation for them. I mean, and I know he was highly touted coming out of high school in Cedar Rapids there, but and they've got
the improvement was still very eye-opening, no matter how you slice it.
Yeah, because he saw some snaps in his redshirt freshman season too. It just he did not pop the same. I mean, he took a big step, you could tell, in terms of just as a football player and in terms of route running, as a blocker, everything. So, I mean, you don't ever want to see injuries there, but people talk about silver linings in those situations, that you see some guys get a chance to pop that maybe wouldn't have gotten as many chances, and that's certainly one of them. Couple that with, you'd hope, knock on computer, it's not made out of wood, better health throughout that room, and again, a deep group that's doesn't have so much to prove, other than stay in one piece all season for most of those guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we'll wrap it up here with running backs, and another thing with injuries and guys coming back is Carson Hansen and what he might be able to do this year. I thought he had a few games where it was kind of the Carson Hansen breakout game. And I say a few as if like the first one isn't enough for him to get broken out. But he was battling that kind of snap count, that injury all season. I think after like right around the Baylor game, and that was his first real big game, if I'm remembering it right. Does that sound right, Rob?
Yeah, boy, they kind of ran together in that historic season. But yeah, he certainly had a breakout, and then you see another, and obviously the rushing touchdowns is what really stood out with him, and his receiving ability, the power he runs with, and the speed. I mean, he just kind of showed that he's got the total package, I think, there. And then you still got Abu Sama, electric guy. We know his skills. We know what he's capable of. And Dylan Lee didn't get that much of a look, but everyone's high on him.
I think he's getting a lot more looks this year.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think a deep group, and a group that's got to mesh with that O-line and be more consistent. We saw some big games last year. I think they took a step in that regard, but we still saw games where they were just stifled, and it wasn't always that a hole wasn't there either. I mean, you just got still reasonably young running backs in terms of how many game reps they'd had last season, and Hansen really exploded. I think Abu's still learning to sometimes take that 2 yard gain rather than try to turn it into something more and then with the 2 yard loss. But again, his home run hitting ability is off the charts, and he and Carson Hansen will form a great 1-2 punch, and see if others can fill around the edges. But should take another step in that running game if, again, that consistency can be developed from the line through the tight ends is helping with that, all that stuff, and the receivers, and then of course the running backs, hitting the holes the right way.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and I think just overall from an offensive standpoint, Iowa State fans have, they've seen what the offense is capable of, and whether they take a step forward this season. I know, not having Higgins and Knoll is huge. But if they can take a step forward and get a little better in each area, I think the sky's the limit for this team. On the flip side of that, there's a lot of new faces and a lot of new places, including the new running backs coach.
Yeah, and we'll talk to him. I think that tentatively it's scheduled for next Wednesday. They wanted a little bit more time to get acclimated, kind of brought in fairly late in the process, but by all accounts, everything's working out well. And when we talk to him, who knows? I'm not sure exactly when we do the defensive one, but maybe we have a little few minutes to just talk about him and the philosophy he's taken to that group.
Yeah, we'll get that next week. We'll put it in there with the special teams. How's that?
Sounds good.
Perfect. Well, thanks again for listening, everybody. We really appreciate it here, and thanks again to A+ Lawn and Landscape. Give them a call. Get your free quote today.
Absolutely.